Hello. Welcome, welcome to anyone joining. Just going to give it a couple of minutes before we start to make sure some people are joining. Um, okay, I'm seeing some people trickle in. Hello. If you're here, would be great if you can just put your name in the chat. Tell me where you're joining from. That's always nice to have a sense. It's always a bit weird with these live streams to not see any faces. So would be really nice to just see some names in the chat. So just tell me where you are, who you are, and then we'll get started in just a minute. I just want to give people some time to join. So I'm based in Lisbon. It's, you can see here in the back, sunny, which is amazing for the 5th of December. So yeah, please, anyone joining, I'll just give it another minute or so before we start. So if you can just say hi in the chat so I can see some names, that would be really, really nice. Let me know where you're calling from. Ingeborg, hello. So fun. Fun to see your name here. And then we'll get started. If you're on a phone, because I am going to show a couple of slides. So if you're on a phone, maybe you want to just change the orientation so it's easier to read. I won't show many slides. It's just to kind of get started, give you a bit of explanation, and then we'll go into the breathing and visualization exercise. So for anyone who just joined, I'll start in just a minute. Drop something in the chat. Just say hello, where you're dialing from. Another Belgian. Great to see. Hey, Marcus. Lots of LinkedIn people. That's nice to see. So thanks so much for joining. I'll take about 25 minutes of your time. And what we're going to be doing is a breathing and visualization exercise. And we have a pretty specific focus today. It's really around using these techniques to increase motivation for a specific task or a project that you've been procrastinating on. And in terms of what this is going to look like over the next kind of 25 minutes is about, I'll just start with talking a little bit about why visualization and why it works from a neuroscience perspective, so just very high level. And then we'll go into the guided breathing and visualization exercise, so also around 10 minutes. And then at the end, we'll integrate and you can ask any questions that you have in the chat. So if that sounds good, we'll get started in just a minute. Can somebody just drop in the chat if they can see my slide? Because I'm getting a little loading sign and I'm not 100% sure if it's showing. So if somebody can just drop in the chat, yes or no, if you can see a slide with the kind of agenda or the structure of the session. Yes or no? We can. Great. Thank you so much, Lucia. That's all I needed to know. Thank you, Ingeborg. All right. So let's jump in. Thanks, Marcus. So for anyone, I guess most of you know who I am, but for anyone who kind of stumbled on this live stream randomly, I'm Charlotte. I'm a breathwork trainer and a body-oriented coach in training. I'm doing these sessions because I am absolutely fired up by learning about our nervous system and how we can use our nervous system to be more focused, more energized, and more resilient. I've really learned for myself that the more I know about my own body and how it works, the more and the better focused I am, the more energy I have, and the more resilient I am, much more than when I'm looking for external tools, or much more when I'm, than when I'm trying to kind of use my brain and use my thinking mind to make things happen. I always make a lot more progress when I focus on my nervous system, when I focus on my body. So that's obviously why breath work is such a big kind of component of the work I do, and just nervous system regulation in general. So I'm very active on Twitter, very active on LinkedIn if you want to follow me there and kind of stay posted on future sessions. But so in terms of visualization, right? Like, why are we talking about visualization? It's actually very simple in the sense that visualization is nothing more and nothing less than mental rehearsal. So there's nothing woo woo or nothing spiritual about it. It's simply using our brain and our imagination in a way that's productive, that's proactive, and that's constructive. And this kind of mental rehearsal um, kind of can work in both ways, right? Like um, basically the principle that visualization is based on is that our brains can't really tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined, and that can be good and bad. That's why we can be all of a sudden very nervous about an upcoming presentation, and we're kind of imagining all the worst case scenarios, and our body reacts in that way, and we're feeling stressed in the moment even though the presentation is tomorrow. So that can happen, that kind of principle of the fact that our brains react in a very similar way to an imagined scenario as it does to a real scenario can be bad, but it can also be good when we learn how to use our imagination in a way that's kind of productive and constructive. So in terms of visualization is really, we're basically mentally rehearsing how we want to act, how we want to think, how we want to feel in advance before the actual scenario happens. And this is a very kind of well-known technique used by, especially by elite athletes. It's very common to be used in sports. Think of tennis players, think of golf players, like they will mentally rehearse every move, every second of the game in advance so that once they're in the game, their bodies and their brains know what to do. So it's a very well known technique. The thing is, regular people like us typically don't use it. Why? I'm actually not sure because it's very, very powerful. And so it's visualization is not just for kind of sports and motor skills or performance based skills. It's just as powerful for cognitive skills or emotions or personality traits. So I'd like to do a little experiment here, and I'd like to ask you to close your eyes and just imagine your favorite food in front of you. It can be on a counter, it can be in your kitchen, like wherever it is, just imagine your favorite food. And imagine as you have your eyes closed, the shape and the texture and the colors of that food. Really try to bring it to mind as vividly as you can. Make it very vivid and specific in your mind. And it's okay if that visual flickers a little bit and if it's not super clear, but just try your best to make it as clear as possible. And now imagine reaching out your hand and picking up that food. Can you feel the weight of the food? Can you feel the texture? Try to make this as sensory and as specific as possible, just purely using your imagination. And now imagine bringing the food to your mouth. And imagine you're taking a bite. Can you imagine the taste, the texture? Since it's your favorite food, maybe your saliva is changing, like the taste in your mouth is changing, almost as if you can really taste the food. You can open your eyes again. This is just a really quick, very simple experiment to show how we use our mind and how we use our imagination has an impact on how our body reacts. Our body will react in the same way as if we're actually eating the food. So this is kind of a silly example, but just to show you kind of the principle of visualization and how you can apply this to literally anything. So what we're doing with visualization is basically just showing our brain and our body how we want it to feel, how we want it to think, and how we want to act before it happens. Because then when we're in the actual situation, it already feels familiar. We already know what to do. Now, if you're listening to this and you're a bit skeptical, and you might think to yourself, okay, fine. For example, in this visualization, we're talking about how can we increase motivation for a specific task. Instead of just closing our eyes and wasting our time on visualizing it, why don't we just immediately do the real thing? Now, the thing is, if that would always work, that would obviously be great, but that's not the case. Often in the moment, we lack awareness. We promise ourselves we're going to do it. We have all kinds of plans, but then in the moment, we just don't. And it's only afterwards that we wonder, like, what the hell? Why didn't I do it? What came over me? Often strong emotions overtake us in the moment. So we just don't get to actually doing it. And the thing with visualization is because we mentally rehearse it in advance, we can practice how we want to feel in the moment, how we want to go through the process, and most importantly, how we want to overcome certain negative emotions and obstacles. So that way, when we actually, after the visualization, go and sit down to do the work, our brain and our body already know how to do it, and there's less resistance. Um, the other thing that you might be struggling with, and this is very normal, is that it's quite hard to bring up visuals. You might have noticed that with the food example, maybe it's hard to really kind of see that food or really kind of visualize things in your mind. That's totally fine. Do not worry about that. Yes, it's called visualization, and it's a little bit confusing because it makes it seem as if visualization is primarily visual, but it doesn't need to be. What we're actually doing here is creating sensory input for our brain and our body to react to. So if you're not very visual, see if you can focus on sounds. Can you focus on texture? Can you focus on body sensations? So it's totally fine. It will still work as well for you if it's not purely visual, but really try to make it as sensory as possible because that's ultimately what your brain and body react to. That's the input that they receive all day long. So if you can make it as sensory as possible, any kind of sensory data will work. All right, enough talking. Um, we'll go into the visualization and the breath work now. So as a reminder, this type of visualization is called process visualization, where we're really going to imagine going through a process so that we can overcome procrastination and we can get started on a project or a task. So I'll guide you through it now. One note is that you can, as you're visualizing, you can either do it from first person or from third person. It doesn't really matter, whatever comes most natural to you. And by third person, I mean it's as if you're literally watching yourself in a movie. You can kind of imagine that. Or it's from the first person, as if you're seeing the things in the scenario through your own eyes. So you can experiment with both, but either can work. And before we jump in, I'd also like to ask you to quickly grab pen and paper, just something to write on. Doesn't matter what it is, can just be scrap paper, but just grab something to write on, and then I'll prompt you during the session to use this. All right. I hope everybody's ready. You can just start by sitting comfortably. Make sure you have a straight spine. You can also lie down if that's easier. So either lie down or sit. But just make sure you're comfortable and make sure that you can close your eyes and really go inward. Because visualization is really a process of clear and focused thinking. So when we visualize, it's important that we first calm our nervous system because it's only in this balanced state that we can be open to connection and creativity and curiosity and new ideas. So we want to be able to go into a meditative and calm state. And we're going to do that by slowing down our breathing and by releasing all tension in our body. So again, just sit comfortably, close your eyes, and start by focusing your attention on your breathing. No need to change anything. Just inhale and exhale slowly and gently through your nose. Feel the air coming in and out of your nostrils. Pay attention to if you can notice how the incoming air is slightly colder than the outgoing air. The outgoing air is slightly warmer. See if you can notice the temperature difference. And as you're breathing in and out through your nose, just pay attention to breathing very slowly and very gently. Almost as if you're trying to prevent the hairs in your nostrils from moving. You want your breathing to be so light and so effortless. So just keep breathing like this. But now also expand your attention to include the rest of your body. The feeling of your body against the chair or the couch that you're lying on. The rising and falling of your belly as you're slowly breathing in and out. See if you can spot any tension anywhere in your body. Let's start at your feet. Relax all the muscles in your feet, almost as if you're melting the tension out of your feet. Relax your legs. Slowly make your way up your belly. Feel it softly going up and down. Just release all tension there. Make it very soft. Make your way up to your shoulders, your chest. We hold a lot of tension in our shoulders, so see if you can just consciously lower them and relax. Same with your neck. And make your way up to your face and relax your forehead, your jaw, your cheeks. And kind of let this feeling of calm and relaxation wash over you. Now, as we go into the visualization, keep breathing in and out slowly through your nose and keep releasing tension. Now, if your mind wanders throughout, that's totally fine. Just bring your attention back to the sound of my voice and go back to the visualization wherever we are. So just start again. There's no need to judge, no need to be annoyed at yourself. This is all mind training, focus training. So just keep bringing your attention back to my voice and back to the visualization. So now I'd like you to bring to mind the project or the task that you've been procrastinating on. It can be something really big and it can be something really small. Just pick one very specific thing. something that you want to get done, something that really matters to you. Bring it to mind. And now, in your mind, I'd like you to mentally see yourself doing and completing the task. If it's hard to visually see it, try to engage any other senses. So, what does that look like for you? What are you doing? Keep bringing that to mind. What are the different steps that you have to take in order to complete this task? And really make this as specific as possible. Imagine where you are. Is there anyone with you? Add as much detail as you can here, even to the point of what you're wearing, what's around you, how are you moving. So, really build that scenario in your mind. In your mind, go through the steps of you doing the task and completing the task. And it's okay if you're repeating visuals, that's totally fine. Just keep bringing up what comes up for you. And what's really important is that you also start infusing emotion here. How do you want to feel as you're doing the task? Are you energized? Are you focused? Are you feeling creative? Whatever it is, infuse emotion here. Really feel into the feelings and especially where you feel them in your body. Again, make this sensory. The emotions are really important here. We don't want to just think about our goals in a very abstract way. We want to attach an emotion to every goal. Now I'd like you to imagine the obstacles that typically come up for you when you're trying to work on this project or do this task. Maybe it's boredom, maybe it's distraction, maybe it's not feeling confident that you can do it. Whatever it is, just imagine that coming up for you again. How does that feel? What does that look like? And just keep breathing in and out slowly through your nose. Relax your face, your jaw, your neck, and your shoulders. Now I'd like you to imagine yourself overcoming that obstacle or those negative emotions. And I'd like you to see yourself continuing with the task and completing the task. Again, what does that look like? What needs to be done in order to finish the task? How do you feel as you complete this task? Again, let the emotion wash over you, whatever that emotion is for you. And I'd now like to ask you to just open your eyes for a minute and take your pen and paper and just jot down a few sentences, a few words around what you've just experienced. What's the task? What steps did you take? How did you feel? Most importantly, how did it feel to complete the task? And what does complete even look like? Just write down a few things. And again, try to engage all the senses and emotions here. That's the most important. What emotion was coming up for you? And I know that might feel a bit like overkill, but that's what our nervous system reacts best to. And that's how our nervous system remembers not just abstract ideas, but the actual emotions and bodily sensations. So I'll just give you 30 seconds to do this. And also keep in mind that there is so much research behind the power of writing down your goals and not just writing them down, but writing them down very vividly and sensory. And people who do that, who are able to very vividly describe or picture their goals, are much more likely to actually accomplish their goals. And it's all about just showing your brain what you wanted to do and what you wanted to work on. So now close your eyes again and just have one more kind of mental snapshot of you going through the process of working on the task, the emotion that you want to feel as you're doing it, and then seeing yourself completing the task, whatever completion is for you. And then take one more slow and deep breath in and out. And then when you're ready, you can slowly open your eyes and come out of the visualization. And then, of course, go do the actual work. Because I think that is a very important um, nuance to visualization. This is not about just thinking about it and imagining it, and then it will miraculously happen. I think that's where a lot of the stigma comes from. That's the whole kind of law of attraction and manifestation um, bullshit, pretty much. This is really just about mentally rehearsing, overcoming obstacles in your mind, and then, of course, actually going and doing the actual work. Um, because from my experience, whenever I do this, I just notice that that kind of mental preparation, it changes my mood, it changes my energy, it changes my confidence level, and that of course impacts my actions. So that the moment I sit down, I'm in a very different state of mind, and I'm able to get the work done that I want to get done without the usual kind of doubts and obstacles that come up. So I'm going to end it there. um, I'd love to know or to hear from a few people in the chat how that was. What was your experience like? If you have any questions, of course, I can also answer them. And then, just so you know, I run these live streams quite often. So you can just follow me on Twitter or LinkedIn to kind of stay updated. Thanks, Ingeborg. Enjoy the next meeting. Thanks for joining. Anyone else? Any kind of experience to share? How did that feel? What emotions came up for you? And of course, again, any questions that you have, I can also answer them right now and kind of stay for another minute or so. And if not, of course, I hope it went well. And then go do the work, go do the task, whatever it is. And let me know if the visualization made a difference. You can always send me a message on Twitter or on LinkedIn. All right. Cool. Thanks everyone for joining. It's a very quiet chat. I'm not very used to that, that it's so quiet. Come on, guys. Nothing at all. Okay. I'm going to close it here then. Thanks again for joining. Hope to see you at the next one. Bye, everyone.